The evolving nature of public library services, new capital projects, and the goals of a new strategic plan have all greeted the library's new Director of Public Services since his arrival here at the Indianapolis Public Library earlier this year. John Helling comes to Indianapolis from the Johnson County, Kansas Public Library. He's been a Fulbright Scholar at the Helsinki City Public Library in Helsinki, Finland. He got his MLS from Indiana University and was director of the Bloomfield Eastern Greene County Public Library here in Indiana. We welcome John Helling. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
John, what attracted you to the Indianapolis Public Library?
Well, a lot of things, quite frankly. I started my career at the New York Public Library, and I got a taste for kind of the urban public library feel, and it really sounded good to kind of get back into that environment.
Mm-hmm. And this is somewhat home for you. You did get your MLS from IU.
It is absolutely home for me. I grew up in Crawfordsville, Indiana, so when my wife and I had our son, getting close to family seemed like a good idea.
Now, I mentioned at the beginning several of the issues or activities facing the Indianapolis Library today. And in talking with you over the past few months, you've been fairly consistent when I ask you, are you getting acclimated, that your response is, in effect, same song, different verse, that all libraries are going through changes, correct?
Oh, absolutely. All public libraries are always trying to adapt and always trying to maintain their relevance. In my opinion, though, it really is just a matter of customer service. As long as a public library has good customer service, that's what makes it from a room full of books into an active, community organization.
Now, what have you seen here at IndyPL so far in terms of how it's readying itself for the future?
All kinds of stuff. Everybody is extremely on point here. I've seen, the collections department has been extremely good about adding the newest and greatest e-services. The facilities department, we've got a tremendous amount of facilities work going on, making sure that our actual physical structures are ready for the 21st century public. Mm-hmm. So everybody, is always firing on all cylinders here, it seems like.
Talking about the capital projects, we're pretty much at the front end of a series of system-wide renovations, new buildings. What's the end goal? What will be the overall benefit once these projects are completed for the patrons?
The overall goal in general is to create a system that serves the entirety of the library district equally. So we're trying to make sure that we're serving places that don't have a location now, and we're trying to make sure that the areas that do have a location have the right type of service within that building. Mm-hmm. So the idea in general is to make sure that we're providing that consistent service all across the library district.
Right. And we have a number of projects going on now. The East Washington branch is a biggie. The Carnegie Library that's going to reopen later this fall, which will be renovated and expanded, and then a whole series of new buildings and other renovations that people will hear a lot more about.
That's absolutely right. East Washington's under construction, so is Southport, so is Warren. We're looking at building new facilities in the future. We've got 2 or 3 projects on the horizon, brand new buildings. So it's an extremely exciting time. We're being very, aggressive about making sure that we are giving the public the library that they ought to have, and not being, satisfied with just what they've had in the past.
Something else people will hear a lot more of in the near future is a project at Central Library involving or termed Reimagining Central. This involves changing the collection around, the location of where people can find the collections. What's the impetus behind this?
So the impetus behind that, we've looked at the data on how people are using the collection within Central. And what we're trying to do is give the collections that are most used more room to grow. So for example, the children's collection takes up about 2% of our floor space at Central, but it makes up about 16% of the circulation, which means it's really punching above its weight. Right. So we'd like to give that room to grow, and we'd like to give people more of what they already are finding useful in that collection, and just make sure that we are paying attention to how people are using the building and not how we think people should be using the building.
And it also matches the changing demographics of the downtown area. We want the library to really serve the younger patronage that the downtown is becoming.
That's exactly right. There are more and more young families that are living downtown. It's not just a stop in. People are actually using that as basically a large branch library. So we want to make sure that those people are served.
So John, where do you fit in? What is your job as Director of Public Services? Give people a taste of what you do on kind of a daily basis.
Oh, wow. Well, there's no such thing as a typical day so far anyway, in my experience. It's just a matter of whatever needs attention that day. It's a little bit shepherding those construction projects. It's a little bit making sure that those collection reorganizations are on point. It's also serving as a bridge directly from our patrons to the rest of the library administration. As the public services department, we are constantly encountering our patrons on a day-to-day level, and we want to make sure that that input filters up and factors into those decisions.
Very good. Before we wrap up, we want to touch on what had to be just a very stimulating and exciting experience for you in Helsinki, Finland. You were a Fulbright scholar. How long was that stint, and what was that experience like?
So it was about 7 months long, and it was one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to me. It was great. My project was to study the Finnish National Library policy. So in a nutshell, how the government kind of encourages the library to grow and how it kind of supports the library system, which we don't have anything like that in the United States. Even on a state-by-state level, libraries are just kind of left to their own devices. But in Finland, they really take care of it, and they really do intentional work to make sure that the library system is supported. So
a good experience not only for the library science portion of your life, but just the overall cultural exposure that you had at that time had to be fantastic.
It was absolutely fantastic, and to live over there where transportation is very robust and healthcare and education are both very well supported, and then to come back and see those same issues being discussed really gives you an idea of what's possible when you really attack those issues.
Okay. Any final word on what the public can expect from the Indianapolis Public Library as we head toward the end of 2016?
Well, hopefully they can continue to expect great customer service, a great collection, great facilities, and if people aren't receiving that, I'm very happy to hear from them. They can get in touch with me on the website. My email address is jhelling@indypl.org. I'm happy to hear from anybody, and that's what it's all about. Fulfilling the patron expectations. So I look forward to hearing from people.
Very good. Well, thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Indianapolis Public Library.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
John mentioned his email address. To keep track of the capital projects and progress relative to the strategic plan of the library, you can always visit the library's website at indypl.org.